You're watching 12 on Health. Chronic obstruction pulmonary disease, or COPD, is the fourth leading cause of death in our country today. COPD is a catch-all term for conditions that lead to breathlessness, and it is more common among the elderly, who often stay indoors and get little exercise. Our guest now, David Junga, is a board-certified respiratory therapist who works with patients in their homes, and he says there is no reason to give up on your health just because you suffer from one of these difficult pulmonary conditions. David, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you,
You
Gillian.
said when you first meet with a patient or a client in their home, you start by doing some testing. And how does this one work? This is your basic heart rate test?
Yes, this is measures your oxygen and your heart rate, and a lot of the patients that we deal with that do have COPD are either short of breath due to having to be on oxygen or during exertion and at rest.
Okay, so you've got the gauge here. I'm holding it, and hopefully that won't affect the readout.
You are very healthy. That's good.
I'm glad to hear it.
Very
so
good.
on the right, folks can see my heart rate, and then the oxygen in the blood. And what will that tell you in terms of their pulmonary condition?
A lot of times patients will become a lot more short of breath when their oxygen levels decrease and they need supplemental oxygen.
Okay, so that gives you a quick read.
Yes, and one of the issues also is that we've heard the term aerobics, that people exercise aerobically. For patients who have a decreased oxygen level in their body, they can go into an anaerobic state, meaning that they're consuming more oxygen than they're able to get in, and their body will actually take the oxygen from the fingers and the extremities to save for the brain and the heart, and it becomes a very dangerous cardiovascular situation.
And it sounds like that would leave them terribly exhausted.
Exhausted and also at a risk for a heart attack if they do it too long. That's why every time that we're exercising with the patients, we're constantly checking their oxygen.
Now, you told me before we got started here today, 9,700 people in Fairfield County have emphysema.
Yes.
And that's only part of COPD.
Exactly. The numbers are growing. COPD is the umbrella terminology for asthma, emphysema, and chronic bronchitis.
Okay, so, and when you lump it all together, quite a few people have these
problems. A lot
problems.
of patients throughout Fairfield County and even New Haven County.
When you get to them, what do you do with them to help them out?
The first thing we do is a lot of patients are caught in a vicious cycle of shortness of breath, leading to them being more sedentary, leading to more anxiety and depression, more sedentary, and then more short of breath.
Vicious cycle.
Oh, it's terrible. And what we do is we work with them to try to overcome their anxiety, one, through education, and two, I myself have asthma, so I've been in a shortness of breath situation.
You know that feeling.
And I can relate, and I can describe to them how they feel. And
you actually get them exercising.
Oh yes, work with
Tell us what
breathing.
you've got here. I mean, this is a step. I know this step from the old exercise classes that I wasn't so good at. You asked them to do a step class with you, or what?
Yeah, it's not as intense as some of the classes I'm sure you've taken, but what we do is we try to replicate them stair climbing, because that is a big cause of shortness of breath for people.
So you bring the step to their home, and you actually have them do it right there while you're helping them?
Oh, we do it.
How many times?
We'll do a couple sets of 12, and we'll keep going, and if they can go, we'll go for 20 minutes, almost even a half an hour, if they can continue handling, again, watching their oxygen the whole time. Also, we incorporate the weights with the stairs, the weights without the stairs, and the whole concept is to be able to strengthen them with the foundation of proper breathing so they consume less oxygen and they're less short of breath.
Are you actually improving their lung capacity?
We have had patients that their pulmonologists have had calls in to me to say that they've improved their lung functions.
Oh, that must be a great call.
Wonderful.
And what is this machine?
This is a portable exercise cycle. Because of the fact that we go to the home, we have to have a lot of portability.
Sure.
So we bring this in, and this can either be used on the floor in their chair.
So they put their feet in it?
They put their feet in it, and they do it like an exercise bicycle.
Okay.
Or we can put it on the tabletop and do range of motion exercises for their upper body.
Now, you brought some visuals that we want to show folks because it's always easier to explain. What do we have here?
Right, that is a healthy lung, and if you'll notice down in the very center is the trachea or the windpipe. One of the things that we tell a lot of patients when they get into a crisis with shortness of breath, first thing they do is they bend over and they pant. And as soon as they bend over, they've actually cut off the windpipe. So one of the things we tell them is to keep your chin up and level, and then breathe in, and one of the foundations that we use is pursed lip breathing, and that is done by inhaling slowly through your nose for 3 seconds, let's say, and then blowing out like you're blowing out in a hot cup of tea through pursed lips. all the way to anywhere from 6 to 8 seconds, depending on the patient.
Okay.
That allows them to completely empty their lungs. The problem with patients with COPD, especially emphysema and asthma, is there's a lot of air trapping. They don't empty their lungs.
Let's see, you brought a visual of lungs with emphysema, and I know that's a tricky one. What's happening here?
In that situation, due to whatever the determining factor is that cause the emphysema, most of the cases it's cigarette smoke, it actually burns the surface area of the lungs. The surface area of, let's say, a young 18-year-old healthy male, the surface area of the lungs is approximately the size of a tennis court. What happens in this situation is you have a cluster of grapes. You cut each grape open, you spread it out, it takes up this much of the surface area. If you have a melon, the same size, cut open, that's it. The cigarette smoke has burnt out all the insides of the clusters.
And I know you can work with them to improve their lung capacity even.
Yes.
You mentioned that. Thank you so much. We're going to have to get more on this another time. Another one of those subjects that can't be covered in one shot. David Junga, based in Stratford.